So this here's my baby, and I am going to try to put in a new K&N air filter right here. So let's see how this goes. First, I checked my parts list, which was right here, and made sure everything was available and already lined up on my washers. This is the cover, filter, what's the intake tube, the housing for the filter, and let's see what we can do. For K&N's instructions, I think I have all the tools I need. Calls for a ratchet, an extension, a 10mm socket, flat blade screwdriver, and a 5/8 wrench, a 3mm Allen wrench, which I have here, and pliers. Not sure where I need to get into with the pliers. Those wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm trying to find stuff in my husband's toolbox is difficult. So as fate would have it, the very first thing on the directions is to remove the negative battery terminal. And of course, this size bolt was not a tool that was on their list in the directions. Luckily, I was able to find it easily. I'm just going to remove the negative terminal. On my Mustang, it looks like this ratchet is what size is it? I don't have my glasses on. Hopefully you guys can read that, because I can't. But anyway, that should loosen my battery terminal here. A little bit looser. If I decide to upload this, please don't pick on me too much. It's my first video and the first time I've ever done this also. Install a filter like this. I'm used to just switching the OEM ones, not putting a fun one on. So everybody knows how to do this. I'm going to pause and finish this. Okay. Check 1. Negative battery terminal removed. Next step is to remove the mass air sensor electrical connection, which appears to be this right here. So here's my air filter under here, and it connects right here. My guess is there's probably a little push here. So I managed to remove it, and this was actually pretty cool. When it was connected on the underside, there was this red lever that actually I had to pull out, and once I pulled that out, it disconnected quite easily. So next step is to loosen the hose clamp that secures the factory intake tube to the throttle body. So that is right here, backup view. Sorry for that shiny light, but so that's right here. And it looks like the screw is right here. So I'm going to go about unscrewing that. So I've loosened this bolt. The next step is to go ahead and to release the locking tab securing the crankcase vent hose to the intake tube. So that is right here. I'm not sure if I can do this with my fingers. Yeah, maybe. So once I released this tab, I was able to use both hands and just pull this. So this is now loose. According to the instructions, the next step is to also disconnect the crankcase vent hose. Okay, so that's what I just did, and the evap hose from the factory intake tube. But it says not all models have a evap vent line, and I don't see one because in their picture it shows it around here, and I have nothing there. So the next step is release the 2 clips that secure the upper air box to the lower air box. Well, that's easy enough because I've done that several times. So that is over here. And it's just a matter of flipping these. I'm not sure why they only said to do 2, since there are more. Remove the upper air box tube assembly from the vehicle. So, they're talking about this. Well, that wasn't pretty easy. Looks like I have an attachment here that is using some electric tape and a clamp. Let me put this phone down and take a look. So I completely disengaged the tube assembly. Here you can see that's where I loosened the clamp, because then I was able to flip this over so that I could take a better look at how this was connected. So now that I can see how it's connected, I'm going to pause again and go ahead and remove it. As you can see, there is my air filter, and it is really nasty dirty because I've been wanting to buy one of these K&N filters for a long time. So I kept putting it off and never replaced the original OEM. So it says 40,000 miles on it. Don't do this, people. You shouldn't do this. But this is going to go in the garbage. So this clamp here, it's going to be a matter of just pulling it out. I already pulled the one out. Let's see if I can pull the other one out one-handed. And you can see. Maybe with my right hand, since I am right-handed. There we go. Okay, so now this is completely disconnected, and we can set it somewhere here, and we won't want to get rid of that in case we ever need it in the future for I don't know why, but it's nice to keep junk around. The next step that they call for is to remove the bolt that secures the lower airbox into the inner fender. So that would be something in here. Let me get a light so I can see better. Oh, I know what they're talking about. So that's where it secures it to the fender. My fender is here. So this bolt. Let me get my equipment. So I went ahead and removed that bolt. That's where my 10mm socket came in, although mine was actually loose and I just removed it by hand, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and see what our next step is. It appears that we remove the lower airbox housing from the vehicle. Okay, is that the only bolt holding this in? Appears to be some resistance at the front. There we go. Yep, that was certainly easy. So there she is. She is removed from the vehicle, and the thing that was resistance was this here that connects to that. So now I have a big nice hole here in the car. Okay. So once I got that out of there and saw how dirty this was, I had to clean down in there a little bit because that's just what I like to do to my car. So I cleaned that out, and especially I thought it might be important to kind of clean this gasket here, this rubber gasket, because it had a lot of dirt in it. See that? So I cleaned around there so the seal would be good. So as we move on to the next step, It is install the provided silicone hose into the throttle body and secure with the provided hose clamp as shown. Okay, so let me fire that up, get it ready. Sorry that light's so bright, but it's like midnight. And I need light out here in the garage, so it's affecting my camera. So the next step in the process is to install the silicone hose onto this throttle body here. And so there are actually two, well, this kind of looks like a hose to me. Maybe it's not, but it looks like one to me. And it's really evident that it's silicone because it's silicone on the inside and the outside. Then there's this one here that is silicone on the inside, but kind of fabric-y feeling on the outside. This is actually the one that they want attached. So I'm going to go ahead and, so I don't have to unscrew this all the way before I put it on, I am going to put it here so that I don't have to totally undo it once this hose is on. And then this attaches to this throttle body here. And once I have it on, then I'll tighten it down. Okay, that seemed to be successful. I put it on, I made sure that it was up against, there's a little thing that sticks up here. Make sure it's up tight against there so you know it's on all the way. And then I went ahead and I already tightened it down with the screw there. So, here is what we have in our engine thus far. Our next step, per K&N, is to install the two provided mounting studs to the bottom of the K&N airbox as shown and secure with the provided hardware. So, let me take a look at what we need to do here. Okay, so I believe what they're talking about is in the bottom where the filter is held, there's two holes. One is there, the other one is 1, 2. Then there's these grommets that are supposed to be used to hold the filter in place, this filter holder in place in the engine compartment. So, according to the instructions, these go on the outside and then they are bolted, the bolts come in through the top. So let me go ahead and do that. Per the instructions, it is two of these bolts, I believe. So these are the ones that are, let me see, the 16mm stainless steel. So let's give this a try. So the finished product looks something like this. This is the bottom. This is looking down through the top. These are the bolts that I put in, and these are also the ones that take the 3mm Allen wrench. I haven't tightened them down yet, so I'll do that now. So I went ahead and completed that. Those are now tightened down, and I didn't mention it, but the way I had it rigged, here is a similar setup. It was the locking nut, which is the one that's got the slit in it, closest to the head, and then the flat washer. That all went down on the top, and then it screwed into this here on the bottom. So we're now ready to move on to the next step, which is to install the K&N filter adapter into the K&N filter box and secure with the provided hardware. So what they're referring to is this, and this will go into the filter box. You can see there's two holes here for the bolts. Comes through like this. And then we'll need to line up those bolt holes. And once we have those lined up, I'm going to go off camera to do that. We'll do the same setup. The remaining 2 bolts that look like this with the locking washer and the flat washer. So I found something that's a little bit disappointing. The screw holes don't align. So you can see here, kind of, it's a little blurry, the brass hole where the bolt's supposed to go through, but I can't get it to align over here. The holes in the filter holder are just a little bit off so that you can't line up both screw holes. So I think I'm going to have to drill it out just a little bit so that that will work. It had it kind of lined up fairly good so you could see the edges, but with the lighting and everything, it's virtually, sorry, I'm flipping this phone around, virtually impossible for me to show. I'm not sure if I can do it again or not. So you can see the brass there on the one side. Dang it. Sorry. You could see the brass there on the one side. Okay, so there's brass on the one side. On the right, and if you see there, the hole on the left is left of that hole. So I can't line up the screws exactly the way they should be. So that one's pretty straight on, but this one is actually not even showing right now. I have to move it that direction, see, for them both to line up. So let me go get a drill. Before I drill this, I do want to point out, it's pretty obvious here now that I look at it, that this space here is larger than this space here, and it's this hole that needs to come over just a little bit so that they'll line up properly. So it looks like they drilled their holes off. That's unfortunate. Okay, that's finally complete. I ended up drilling each hole a little bit bigger so that one hole wouldn't be huge. So hopefully that'll work out, because I'm sure it's not quite center here. So we're gonna find out. So the next step is to secure the silicone hose to this here. And I didn't show the inside. This is just what we secured and how it looks from the inside. But that there is this silicone hose here. So we're going to take it and we are going to put it there. And here's though it's going to be this direction. So I need my larger clamp. Take this off because I don't need it right now. And we'll go ahead and put this on the outside. Actually, I didn't loosen that. So I went ahead and I pushed that gasket onto here. I put the clamp bolt facing up, because remember this is going to fit in our engine oriented like this. And I want to be able to get to this bolt in case I ever need to while it's inside the car. So now that I have that tightened down, the next step is to remove the factory airbox grommets from the factory lower airbox. So that's these here. And it looks like these are just little rubber grommets that should pop off of here, I believe. Yeah, so those just kind of peel off of there. I peeled the one off. I have the second one to peel off here. So it just pulls off basically. Easier with two hands than one. So let me pause and I'll peel the second one off. This is what it looks like once it's off. So once these are off, we take them and the grommets that I put on earlier, they get stuck onto those. That was pretty easy. And the second one, that one barely snapped on. So the next step is to install this new airbox in here. There's where the factory grommets go. So let's see if I can orient it and get it in where it belongs. There's the grommets. Line them up and lower them in. So I think I have it in place. I connected this back up so it would go in easier. That I don't know, that's probably an out for air, not sure. And then the way that I knew that I had it lined up correctly is this hole here. It's difficult to say because it's lined up just about perfect. There is an aluminum spot where the bolt will go through. So that's the next step. Apparently I was still running. So this is where my extension's going to come in handy for my socket. So I'm just ratcheting that down. Probably with as short a socket as I had, I wouldn't need the extension because this little socket would fit way down in there. So either use an extension or a short socket wrench. So now that is in there and it's pretty tight. This is how it appears from this direction. So I'm talking about this. I pushed this into here as well as I could. So that's nice and tight. So the next step is regarding this little hole here. And this is where if you have a, what's the name of that thing called again? So if you have the NTP tube, you would install, well, they gave you two things. They gave you this, and if you have the NTP tube, this is what you would install so that you can connect it, because it's hollow. However, if you don't have, like I didn't, you use a plug. And they said this is very easy to cross thread because it's plastic, I'm sure. So just be careful when you screw this in. I'm meeting some resistance, so I'm gonna just go offline a second and make sure it's not cross threaded. So directions are to screw this in by hand, which I've done as far as I can. And then to use a wrench for 2 complete turns. It looks like it's going to be more than 2 complete turns for me, but I think it's just because I'm weak and that hurts my fingers. And in addition, the wrench that they told us that we would need in these instructions was a 5/8 wrench. And as you see, this is a 5/8 wrench. And it doesn't fit. So let me go figure out what size wrench does fit. As it turns out, a metric 14 wrench fits that. So once again, I'm going to do this and then I'll come back because I don't want to scratch anything here. So the next step is to remove the mass airflow sensor from our original parts, I guess. So remember, that's the thing we unplugged. It was the very first step. So the first thing we need to do is unscrew that. That looks like some type of hex. So the next step is to take this mass airflow sensor that I just removed and to reinstall it here. Now, the problem is it's not like you can figure out which direction it goes because the screws are different, because it would go either way. So let me figure out which direction it does go in. So it still isn't clear to me which direction it goes in. However, when you put it in, it looks like the same amount of air will flow over it either direction. So maybe it doesn't matter. The orientation here is going to be like this. So I'm thinking that perhaps I will put it so that when I connect the electric cable to it, that's in the same orientation as the original one. So no method to my madness, that's just what I'm going to do. So I'll go ahead and complete that. When I went to actually screw down this mass airflow sensor, I found out there is a right way and a wrong way. And I was able to find that out because this hole's only lined up one way. So, and in addition, I just want to show you the bolts that are used are these the little tiny ones, the smallest ones that came in the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and finish installing those. So that's complete now and looks like that. And as an FYI, the same screwdriver bit that was used to remove the previous OEM from the OEM air filter, those bolts, it's the same size bolt pattern, size and pattern. So that same bit can be used to screw these in. So here's what we've got thus far. So we're getting very close now. Our next step is to install the K and N intake tube to this gasket. So I'll go ahead and get my clamp on there first. And once we have that on there, go ahead and install this. I'm going to pause a second, use two hands. Well, that was a little bit of struggle, but I got it done. Kind of like putting on a really tight pair of jeans and then trying to zip them. One of my challenges was I have this engine compartment cover, the decorative one, and this doesn't really fit under it, and the tubing that it attaches to isn't long enough to come up out. So I don't know, I might need to trim this. It's just foam, so I might end up trimming that. I'm not really certain. And then over here I had a hard time lining it up, so what I ended up doing is loosening that bolt where it was bolted in so that there was a little bit of give and I could move it a little bit. So now I think these are all tightened down. The only thing that is not done is to plug in that mass flow sensor, which is here. And so it should just plug in, I believe, like this. Yep. And then remember to re-clamp that there. That's got a nice tight hold. I'm imagining the next step is the filter. Also, as a reminder to these clamps need put on and tighten down, so clamp on this end and the clamp on that end. And as I thought, the next step is to install the filter. Oh, you know what, before I do that I need to tighten that bolt back up that I loosened so that I could get the pipe in. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, filter. This is where we will see if my holes that I had to drill pose any problem with the alignment and the filter fitting in. I think we're going to be fine. Oops, still running. So that filter cover is going to fit. I'm not sure if I want to keep it on though. A lot of people, it seems as though they don't keep theirs on. So let me clean up the tools and reconnect the battery and see how it sounds without the cover on. Well, it appears as though it's a success. I don't hear any leaks. Unfortunately, I can't give it gas and let you hear how it sounds because I'm the only one around. My husband's sleeping. But I can't wait to give it a drive. The only thing is, now my engine looks all crappy down in here where it's off-roaded. I have to find some engine cleaner. If anybody knows something that gets that corrosion off really well. If I post this, would you please put it down in the comments? Because now you can see it, and it's really ugly. Whereas it wasn't very noticeable. It was covered before. Anyway, very cool. Alright, I'm gonna go for a ride. Last night I installed my new K&N filter. And here it is. And